Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I have my good friend Nick Alligood has joined me on the show. He and I have got a chance to connect over social media. He's got a lot of things going on in his life. Not only is he a new husband, but he's also a new dad. I'm really excited for him to share his experiences being a brand new dad, but also he's a musician and he's got some great music coming out that I want you guys to check out. But I'm really excited to have Nick on the show. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited for it.
Awesome. I've been looking forward to this, and I know you and I have kind of connected over the last, I don't know, month or two, gotten a chance to know each other a little bit. But for my listeners who may not know who you are, let's kind of dive into the backstory of Nick, kind of how you
Okay.
grew up, and then also how you got into music, kind of what inspired you to get into music. And then obviously, this is a podcast about parenting, about dads. So I want to know about your family as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, just feel free to stop me or interrupt me through anything.
You're all
I feel
good.
like I can just kind of ramble on about this stuff. But yeah, so my name's Nick Alligood. I claim Albany, Georgia as my hometown. My dad was in the military, so I grew up bouncing around back and forth the whole first probably 10 years of my life. And then obviously moving into South Georgia from upstate New York, I was introduced to country music. And, I learned how to hunt there, fish there, ride dirt roads, do all your cliche Southern boy type stuff. Um, I went to college at Georgia Southwestern in Americus, Georgia. And briefly after that, I um, I thought I found what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I worked out at a power plant for energy operations company for about 2 years or so. That's the industry my dad's in. And I actually had the opportunity to work under my dad. Um, and I loved it, but I was still playing music in college bars and all that type of stuff and having a serious job working, you know, 50, 60 hours a week and then trying to go play bar gigs just wasn't really working for me. And I kind of realized that um, although I thought I was in that part of my life where I wanted to grow up and leave it all behind and whatnot, that I was going to miss it. So I just kind of took everything I learned over the past couple years and I gave it a shot and came home, told my parents I wanted to move up to Nashville, and um, just I did it. It was like I had some money that my grandmother had left me that was to be used for a once in a lifetime opportunity or for my family. Um, in which case, my mom gave me the thumbs up. I bought my first tour bus and trailer, went out on the road, did it. I toured the country for, it's from about 2015 until for about 2 years strong. I was probably playing 150 shows a year on the road,
Oh, wow.
opening it up for everybody from Joe Nichols, Black Hawk, Big and Rich, a couple other guys, but just doing the whole, I would play a 4 hour gig in North Dakota on a Thursday night for the bartender, and that's about it because it was, snowing outside or whatever, and just chase the dream down, man. And I guess in 2017, I got my first phone call that a song I had written was going to make it to SiriusXM The Highway for another artist.
Oh, cool.
And that was the turning point in my career. And the reason that it's not just because that song went to radio, it's more than that to me because I was the closest I'd ever been to giving it all up. And, one thing that a lot of people don't touch on in the music industry is, um, you know, I would allow you or my parents or whoever else the opportunity to see the things I wanted them to see on social media, the packed houses playing in front of 3,600 people, or the 10,000 people at the North Dakota State Fair, or drinking at the bar what looked like 7 nights a week, or all those things. And that's why everybody's like, oh man, you're up in Nashville living it up. And I'd never been more depressed and miserable in my entire life. And it was by far my lowest moment. So far as a human being, I'm 32 years old now. I would say about 27. And I remember calling back home and I was like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. It's too much on my mind, too much on my body. I lay in the bed for, a week straight and never come out, never do anything because I didn't have money. And it just was a lot. And so literally 5 days after I called my mom and was in tears, I got that phone call and said that you got a song going to national radio. And that was a really cool thing for me. And not to mention it was with a good buddy of mine from South Georgia as well. And Dallas Davidson, who is a songwriting hero of mine, actually owned publishing on the song. So it was a really cool thing. And how it all worked out and got there was great. And it kind of kept me pushing on. And then from there, it went to taking time off the road because I wanted to focus on my songwriting because that's where my success was coming. I got a couple other cuts, a couple more, like little unsigned guys. And then I got my first label hold and it just kind of kept spiraling. And then in 2020, I guess right towards the end, about 2 years ago now, I got a phone call during quarantine while I was up in Maine with my now wife, that I got my first Billboard Top 40.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And that was, I'll never forget it. I was on a run. I was out and he's like, stop where you're at right now and look around. I'm like, all right, what, and it sat on there for 19 weeks, which was a big deal. Neither I wasn't signed, the artist wasn't signed. Just had a bunch of people that really believed in the song, and that kind of took me to the next level. And all meanwhile that's happening, now the world's shut down. Previous to that, I played Broadway downtown Nashville full time as myself. And when we got the call to come back to Nashville, I was all excited to keep writing, and it opened up a lot of doors for me. So I got some really cool writes, which turned into writing the #1 song on John Daly's, the professional golfer's debut full-length album, with a Willie Nelson feature.
Big difference.
Yeah, huge difference actually. And that was a cool moment too. But that's when Blackout, which is my downtown band, kind of came together, and I met Reagan. We started playing shows, and I'd never seen a reaction from what we were doing, because I thought we were doing the same thing I was doing previously. But we added one of our good friends, Dylan Gasca, to come play drums, and we were kind of a power trio. And man, we were getting recognized in the streets, and we were just a cover band downtown. People would be, before COVID fully opened back up downtown Nashville, you might wait 2.5 hours to get into Jason Aldean's or wherever, and we would be walking by these what seemed like mile-long lines that come in, and people are like, "Oh, there's the Blackout guys! There's the Blackout guys! We came back to Nashville to see you!" And da 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 da. And so it turned into this big thing, and next thing you know, we're a 4-piece band. We play over 300 shows a year. We're the only band in Nashville history that plays Broadway full time that is officially partnered with Jack Daniels. We just added Bush Light to that as well. And yeah, man, I mean, we do, I'd say probably an additional 40 private events a year for our company we work for. And all of our residencies are like Jason Aldean's, Luke Bryan's, and Florida Georgia Line. And because of that, things come in. We've done events for the Predators. We've done events for the Titans. We just got rained out. We were supposed to play the Nashville Soccer Club Stadium, which was going to be really, really cool. They just built that up. But yeah, man, and all meanwhile that part's happening, I'm in the process of moving my wife down. She's been here for about 2 years now. We did the long distance thing for year and a half.
Mm.
You know, she would either fly up or I would fly, or I would fly up or she would fly down at least once every 3 weeks. Max was about, there were a couple times where we get in there, you know, we'd see each other 2 or 3 times in a month, or might have to go longer than 3 weeks, but did that. And um, it, the clothing line thing, Whiskey No Rocks, that's another one of those things that just kind of came out of nowhere. And I took over full ownership of it during quarantine and was packaging hats myself, doing everything in the basement of my girlfriend's condo she was living in, and which has been a really big experience. And now we're expanding nationwide. We got into a couple storefronts. We have a huge hunt giveaway we've got coming up, and some stuff that I'd like to give you a link for that you know, we can share with the subscribers and whatnot here. The Whiskey No Rocks thing is, especially now being a dad, I think I've taken it more in as like my baby, because my songwriting and music has already kind of, it just works itself now. So I definitely think that I enjoy music more than anything in the world, but starting this brand and taking it to the next level and watching it succeed is what I could imagine on is one millionth of what it's like to watch your child grow up, you know, or whatever. So yeah, man, we're just I burn it at both ends and run 14 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week, and just kind of, it's what I live to do, I guess you could say.
That's awesome. All right, now your baby girl.
Yes. So all of that what consumed me for so long, and it still does in a certain way, but everybody, I always bring this up because so many people try to tell you how you're going to feel, or how they can't explain how you're going to feel, or what you should do, and all these different things, as you know, because when you look at somebody's looking from the outside in that doesn't really know me as a person. They just see, oh, he's this musician and he's got this crazy lifestyle and this is about to blow his world, you know, like, and it did. Don't get me wrong, it blew my world, but I was ready for it. I wanted it more than I ever really thought that I did, I guess. And it was that, you know, I got me and Kels leading into the pregnancy, or leading up to her being born through the pregnancy. It's tough when everybody's like, how many times do you hear, you better get your sleep now because it's all going to go away? And you're like, yes, ma'am, I understand that. You are the 40th person to tell me in the past 2 days. Thank you very much. You know, and it's like all those things. And I was like, man, I get it. She's pregnant. Okay. Let's just have the baby. And then it happens. And for me, it wasn't real. And like, it was real, everything coming up to it. But that baby was inside of Kelsey. So it was always real for her. She could always feel it differently than I could feel it. Or her hormones were telling her one thing and her body was saying another. And it's like, well, yeah, I can feel it, but I can't. You know, there's something there. Yeah. Just I got to see it to believe it type thing. And man, when she came out, without getting too deep into it or whatever, we had to do an emergency C-section, and which caused us to be in the NICU for 3 days, and just basic, you know, nothing too crazy. And it was the scariest, happiest moment of my entire life, for sure.
That's awesome.
Just watching, this goes to show you how terrible I am at understanding pregnancy. When I got in there and they're like, all right, we're going to go ahead and start pushing, Dad, if you want to hold her. I have an extremely weak stomach, and I have expressed this to every single person in that building. And they're like, okay, hold her leg, and no, we're going to start pushing. I was like, not with me in this room, you're not. No. I was like, I can't do that. She's like, no, she's just been induced, so we're trying to get it going, you know, whatever. And then there were just complications, and watching after, I think like 2.5 hours of her pushing. And then we went into that. It was that scary moment where, you think that you have found the measure of how the way that you feel about your significant other and that baby that is soon to be there, right? And we were not married at the time. I proposed to her in March, and we found out we were pregnant in August. And so it was like, well, we're going through it. We were already planning on it, but it was a moment that brings you even closer together. Even though you think that oh, I'm in love with her, this is what we do and whatnot, and then it's just kind of, I don't know, you have different feelings, and then something dramatic, or I don't know what the word is that I'm looking, traumatic, I guess, of watching that, not knowing if she's going to be okay, or knowing if the baby's going to be okay. And I'm a emotional person, I guess you could say, in general. So I was in tears, just freaking out. But it was an incredible thing, man. And now every day, just getting to wake up and go in there. I wake her up in the mornings. I do the morning stuff and take her to daycare, and it's every little thing that changes with her every single day is incredible. Like as an overall experience, as understanding who she's starting to grow into, and also getting to do that with Kelsey, and kind of go through the tough stuff with it too. I think we should do this. Well, I think we should do this, and try not to worry about who's right. And doing what is best for our family, which is a lot easier to say than like, I'm just sitting here talking about it, and you're a dad, that. And I don't have a ton of friends that are dads. So to me, it's like, I have a lot that are about to become now, or have just become since I have. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, let me walk you through this, because then nobody give me any of this, or the things they don't tell you about pregnancy. So it's been incredible, and every day something new happens, and we're just trying to do the best we can, and make sure I keep her alive, and just keep it going.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's cool. I mean, there's a lot you touched on there, but something that you were talking about earlier is like, you can never, I've said this many times, but you can never explain to someone who is not a dad what it's like to be a dad. And you kind of touched on it, how you didn't really understand it until you had to see it to believe it. And then once she was born, it's just that whole change of emotions that happens, that connection, that love connection that happens between you and a baby, or you and you, in your case, you and your daughter. It's just something that just cannot be explained to some of the friends that you have that aren't dads. So that's awesome. As far as the having scary moments, I have, I have two boys. They're both older, 23 and 20, and I had issues. My wife and I had issues with both of our boys. My younger son was born 6.5 weeks early. He was on essentially what they call a life oscillator, but it's essentially a life support for a baby. And he was in the NICU for 6 weeks, and
wow.
he was I mean, he had everything hooked up to him. We couldn't hold him for a while. So that was a scary time for my wife and I to go through, to have him sitting there, being in there for that long of a period, and going through the stuff he was going, because he was so premature. But now he's healthy, and he's been healthy his whole life. He's 6'3". I mean, he's just
I saw he's a big kid.
Yeah. And then, my younger son, when he was born, it was kind of the opposite thing. He was 2.5 weeks early, but he was, my older son was like, I think a little over 5 pounds. So he was, almost 6 pounds when he was born. But my younger son was 2.5 weeks early, but he was 10 pounds. So he was a big baby. But when we had him, my wife was in recovery, and she started hemorrhaging. She had obviously a C-section. She started hemorrhaging to where she essentially passed out, and she lost enough blood for 2 people. And they
Man.
had to wheel her out of there and take her to the ICU. And I remember they kicked me out of the room. And I remember all the nurses and people around her wheeling her out. And her doctor was on top of, like on the bed, on top of her, hooking
Oh,
things
wow.
up to her. So that's the image I saw when they were coming out of the room and they were rushing off to ICU. And then my wife was in ICU for 2.5 weeks. So she ended up, she lost a lot of blood. They've had to put her in a medically induced coma. So all these different things happened to her. And here I am with a brand new baby who's perfectly healthy, that I wanted to give my attention to, but I was so worried about my wife that I had to kind of keep an eye on both of them.
Yeah.
So I had very similar, experiences as far as dealing with trauma when your baby's born. But luckily, my wife is fine. She recovered quickly, and she's been fine. And my younger son, he's 6'3" as well, and they both tower over me. They're all good. So, but that's cool. I wanted to ask you though, a couple of things. I've done a little bit of looking you up and all that kind of stuff, and looking at some of your music. You have some great music out there. And
Appreciate it.
one of the songs that really touched me that I want to kind of touch on, is based on a good friend of yours. Being a military guy myself, I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. This one really, really hit home for me. But it's a song called "Drinking Left to Do." And I saw the video. It's an amazing video. But your good friend Weston Lee, can you talk just a couple minutes about him and what kind of impact that song had on not only you, but why you did it?
Yeah. So Weston, he was an Army paratrooper and Army Ranger, and that he passed away April 29th of 2017. And it's the easiest way for me to get emotions out as being a songwriter is to write and to get it out there into the world. But I was actually in Dubuque, Iowa, the morning I found out. I don't know why this keeps changing the lights there. And I had just played a show at a big casino down there, and I saw a Facebook post. One of our buddies, Parker, put it through, and obviously, that doesn't really seem real. Especially when I went to sleep at 5:30 in the morning, and this is 7:30 in the morning. So I've been asleep for 2 hours. I just kind of woke up and looked at it, and I don't remember this, but apparently I went into kind of like shock, I guess. And I actually threw my phone through the drywall of the hotel room. Just I can't explain it. I guess it was just I freaked out about it and whatnot. But I drove in silence about 14 hours all the way back to Nashville that next morning off 2 hours of sleep. And when I got there, all I did for those 14 hours was thinking about what we did growing up together and the good stuff, and just trying to outweigh what I was feeling, in that moment. And man, Weston, he loved my music. He used to come to shows all the time, and even when I was awful, when I first started and was playing Mexican restaurants and in my college town and stuff, he would always come, and any chance to go out and with the boys and watch me play and have some drinks, and that's one thing that we really enjoyed doing, was going to different bars and stuff together and meet new people. And so I got the chance to speak to his family shortly after, and then I also I unfortunately missed his service at Arlington due to my car would not start. I was in the peak of that was 2017. I said that earlier is when I got the phone call about about the song making it to radio. So I was at the lowest point. I didn't have money. I didn't even think I had the money to pay for gas, honestly, to get there. But I was like, screw it. I'll put it on a credit card or I'll do whatever. And my car wouldn't start that day. And after speaking to his family and whatnot, I was like, you know what? I really want to write this song, but I really have to go see him first. That before I can take it to where I want to go, I have to go to Arlington. And another one of those freaky, wow, where did that come from? How did it happen moments? And they came in and said, I got a phone call. I was like, hey, we want to book you a show in Washington, D.C. And I'm like, okay, perfect. Arlington's right there, you know, like, and I was like, dude, appreciate you, man. You know, like, I'm going to get to come see you. And I went over there, did that, came back, had a writing session like 3 weeks later. And I sat down, I told my buddies, I was like, I don't know if you're in the mood for this, but I am. So either we're going to write it together or I'm going to go home and write it. Like I'm just kind of feeling it. And both of them, AJ and Vinny were both like, no, absolutely. Let's go. And we wrote the song in about an hour and a half. I played it out. It's obviously a really personal song for me. And I wanted to release it, although I knew it wasn't going to do well for me. Those types of songs, typically the songs that means the most to you do not have the least success. 9 times out of 10, unless you're already, you've already put out your Barefoot Blue Jean Night or your whatever party song that got you, you know, noticed. And so I put the song out, and the guy that helped me start Whiskey No Rocks is a guy named Jake Myers, who owns Red, White, Blue Apparel. Huge apparel and hat company, obviously very driven towards, you know, Second Amendment and back in the military and stuff like that. And the time he was investing in my music, and he goes, man, I want to pay for this. I want to put together a video. I want to get a marketing team behind it. I want to do all this stuff. Well, we hired a guy that worked in the movie industry. He worked for on a bunch of films and Fast and the Furious and stuff like that. Well, he had always been a camera guy, but we didn't know that the editing wasn't really going to be what we were looking for, because we were hoping to shoot a big music video. And we did. I mean, we had paid actors and stuff like that just sat in the background as extras. And we shut down a bar for it. We shot it up right outside of Cleveland in Lakeland, Ohio. And it was a really cool thing. But just the fact that I was able to get that song out there helped me a lot personally. And, you know, to this day, me and Jake always say, like, wow, we did that music video. You know, like, we did that without a record label or without some crazy fancy crew. And we didn't do it to become famous. We did it because it was something that I just really felt strongly about. And I really hoped that it would have an impact on somebody. But what I wasn't expecting was to wake up over the next month with hundreds of messages from people who had lost their sons, their daughters, their husbands, their wives, their aunts, uncles, whatever it may have been. And I actually had a police officer, a canine unit, reach out to me, and he was like, I know this is going to sound really stupid, and I hope you don't judge me for it, but my partner, his dog, his canine, was killed in the line of duty in Long Island, I think. I can't remember. I'd have to look at it. And he was like, I think, you know, that was my best friend for 10 years. And
wow.
I think about that, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't apologize. It doesn't matter if that song makes you think of just your grandpa, and he wasn't in the military. You know what I mean? It's just something to let you release a little bit of your sorrow or whatever you're holding. And that's what that song became to me. And it doesn't have billions of streams or anything like that, but the way that people contacted me and expressed their emotions and what it made them feel, to me, that song is beyond successful on every single level. You know, it wasn't about the streams or the money. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And
Yeah, I
first of
mean,
all, thank you for your service. I didn't
yeah,
even.
well, I appreciate that. And obviously, I appreciate your friend, taking that step as well. I mean, it's a huge step and a huge risk, but I'm sorry that you lost him. But the fact that you did this kind of song dedicated really to him and his memory is amazing. And for those of you that haven't seen this video, it's really touching. So I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. It's really an
Thank you.
amazing video, well put together, and just a really good song. So congratulations on it. And
Thank you.
kind of touching base on who you are as a dad. I mean,
Okay.
I want to know about your upbringing. What kind of things did you learn from your parents as being parents that maybe you want to take into your role as a dad, or maybe there's things that you learned from them that probably are not going to work for you as a dad, and you want to kind of change it. What kind of upbringing, and how does that all play out as you as a dad now?
Well, I briefly mentioned my dad was in the Navy
Mm-hmm.
for 6 years, and so he went to the military because they found out they were pregnant with me. My parents were 18, 19 years old. My dad is a huge influence on my life. He went to like the first week of 10th grade, I think, dropped out, um, worked job after job after job. And then, with me, obviously his dad was in the military, swore him in. He went into the Navy, took things there, and, did what he had to do. And now my dad is one of the most successful people I've ever met. So I think the biggest thing in being in that type of situation where one parent is in and out, because they have to be, not because they choose to be. And the other is, I guess, static and is just constantly doing things that the way they need to do it. I can't imagine having to do that. And I really hope that I did see how much that put stress on my mom. And, she was trying to finish school and do all those types of things. And especially being 18, 19, I can't imagine if I was 19 years old right now. But what I was doing at 19 years old does not match up for what you see behind me here, or, anything like that. I was probably eating tuna fish out of a can and drinking 24 Bud Lights a day,
Right.
So it's totally different. However, I think it's kind of the same, because as I transition into this next level of my career, there are going to be times where I'm not going to be present for everything. And, my mom always jokes about my dad being gone, or me and my dad aren't affectionate. We're not, hey, I love you, son, or I'm proud of you. It was always just like, all right, good job, or whatever. He'd coach me in baseball. So we have a coach type, more of a friend relationship than a dad and son. But I ask him for everything, anything that I need, first time restringing a weed eater, when you're
Right.
16, 17, hey, come out here, show me how to do it, or, whatever. And to me now, I'm not doing it. I was scared how I was going to be as a dad, because I wasn't really sure if I was going to be emotionally attached, or if I was just going to be that consumed by my work, gone, 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 gone. And so that's why I kind of jumped on board with me getting up early in the morning thing, because that's something that I learned that I wanted to be from something he wasn't able to be, I guess. And so in some way that answers your question there.
Yeah.
But, I take every chance that I can in the mornings or whatever to be with her and spend more time, and just because it's going to go quick. And that's another one of those things that everybody keeps saying. But I definitely think that the way that I was brought up is more towards when I was in the South. The 10 years on has it kind of implanted this totally different type of fathering than I expected myself to do. And I let it come out naturally. And I'm enjoying every second of it, instead of, I think, more or less being like, okay, we got to do this. It's like, you don't have a choice. Well, now it's like, I'm happy to go in there in the morning and see her smile as soon as she wakes up, and, stuff like that. So I know I circled all around your question, but in some way, shape, or form, I would say that just being not only present, but present and involved,
Mm-hmm.
even at the early stage, because right now I don't know how I'm going to be when she's 12.
Right.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't. She may tell me to screw off from 10 until she's 17, for all I know. But I know that right now, that and the nurturing that I got from my mother of constantly just the reassurance. Hey, I love you. Hey, I'm like, I know she can't talk, and I call her Monkey, and that's like my thing. And me and Kelsey talk all the time. We're like, we got to start calling her by her name. I call her Monkey nonstop. She calls her Mama. I'm like, okay, well, what do you think her first words are going to be? It's going to be Mama, because you're like, good morning, Mama. I'm like, oh God.
Or Monkey.
Yeah, I know, right? So you come out climbing out of everything. But right now, I think that what I inherited, if you will, is just wanting to make sure that I don't miss anything if I can help it. I don't ever want it to be like, oh, well, it was a Sunday, and Sundays are our family days. And that's something that I didn't have growing up, was specific time. And that's something that we do every single week, no matter what. Even if it's just one thing, the one thing that we do no matter what is go out to eat for breakfast, brunch, dinner, whatever we do. And then at the very least, it's that. Right. If we do anything else, even if we come back to the house and we're just hanging out here, it's spending quality time, because I know there's going to be a point where I'm not going to be able to be here. And that's just a really crappy feeling. And I think that not knowing if my parents did feel that way at 18 or 19 and being like, were they just really trying to be like, somebody take this kid, and I want to go? And it's like, maybe so. I don't know. I was too young, but I know that they missed out on a lot, and I'm okay with missing out on other things outside of this at this point in my life, and in order to trade them out for moments that I'll never be able to get back. So
Nick, kind of going back to how your parents raised you and all that, as far as, your mom was more the affectionate one. Your dad was kind of out of the picture a little bit. Obviously he coached you. I coached both my boys all through when they grew up, 4 years old, all the way up through high school. I was a high school varsity basketball coach. I coached them for many, many years. That was really our connection. And I saw that as an opportunity to really develop my bond with them. So, I mean, if you have an opportunity, your daughter wants to play softball or, whatever it is she wants to do, obviously be as involved as you can. But on the flip side of things, I wanted to ask you this because you have a music career that's really taking off. And I know you kind of touched on it. Like there's going to be times where you're gone. How are you going to be able to find that balance between family time and, maybe times that you're on the road?
I think we tried to figure out a plan already before this really starts getting rolling. And because without, legally being able to say specifically what's happening, I do have some really big things going in the background, and it's caused us to get that very question come up while we're sitting on the couch here in the studio or whatever. And I think the most important part is finding out. Most everything will be on a schedule, so I can come through, and it's just making the time, no matter what it is. And I think that, right now, that's only a Sunday all day thing. Well, guess what? Sundays might be gone, and I might be in town Monday and Tuesday only but I'm in the studio on Monday during the day and Tuesday, whatever. So I think our biggest thing that we kind of came across was just to make sure that we make it happen. You know, if I know that I only have 3 hours, don't leave the studio and go with the guys to celebrate with a beer. You know what I mean? Go home, spend time with her. That's the things that can be done in other times. I'm gonna know those guys forever. Those guys are, yeah, they're gonna get older. It's like she is, but I don't care what they do in the next 10 years of their life, you know? So I think just making it a priority is the first step. And then from there, it's really, I don't know what level this is going to get to for me. I don't know is it going to be, oh, you're gone once every now and then, or are you gone 5 days a week? And whatnot. So we haven't really made a plan for that level of me not being present. But I also want for my wife and daughter to, I told her, I was like, we are luckily blessed enough to be in a financial situation where I can buy you guys a plane ticket to come to wherever I'm at that weekend,
Right.
or, put you up in a hotel, or, stay at the Airbnb with us, or whatever it is. I just want them to be involved, and I want to be involved in some aspect. So I can't really give one specific answer for that. I just know what we've been more or less prepping for it, I guess you could say. Then they're really coming up with or locking in a solid plan for the future, and more so about what's happening in the near future in the next year or so.
Yeah, I think it comes down to something that I refer to as non-negotiable. So I have things in my life that are just non-negotiables. They are set. I don't waver from them. It doesn't matter what comes up. Those things are non-negotiable to me. I will make sure that I am actively taking care of it. So as far as you go, I think it's kind of the same thing. You have non-negotiables in your life right now when it comes to, being in the studio. You have to get this song recorded. You have this commitment to show up at this, club or bar or whatever it is that you're going to be playing. You have to be there. So that's a non-negotiable. The same has to apply for you and your wife when it comes to family time. And not only that, I'll take it a step further, Nick, not only that, but you have to have non-negotiables for you and your wife, time together for the two of you to really make sure your bond is still strong, because the child, believe it or not, the child, as much as you both love her and you all are going to be a great family together, the child's going to kind of pull you guys apart, and you want to make sure that you remain connected and have that bond in place. So the time that you find for you personally, and then you and your wife, and then you and your family, those have to be your non-negotiables, Nick, because if they're not, then you're going to see that side of it start to slip. And if it starts to slip, that's when things can really happen as far as affecting your relationships, not only with your daughter, but with your wife as well. The reason I bring up non-negotiable for you is because if you're not taking care of Nick, if Nick isn't taking care of Nick, you're not going to be able to give 100% to not only your band, but also your wife and your daughter. So you need to make sure you're taking time for yourself. It's just a little bit of advice from me as what I call a veteran dad to a brand new dad, a brand new husband. So just keep that stuff in mind. Scheduling is super important. Obviously, you know how to schedule. You schedule things for your music and all that kind of stuff, but you need to keep that schedule together for your family as well. My wife and I do that. We run through our schedule every Sunday. Sunday evenings is kind of our time to go, what do you got going on this week? What do I have going on this week? And we kind of make sure it all kind of connects, so we still have time together and time with the family. So
yeah,
just a bit of advice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great.
Yeah.
I think that's one little thing too, that we do something very similar to that. And just because, and there's plenty of times where I've got too much going on, I'll forget about it. Like I was actually supposed to have a video shoot for the for my clothing and hat company this morning. And I realized that some of the people that were supposed to be involved in it, I hadn't heard back from them. We ended up having to cancel it last second. But she's like, "What are you talking about? What did you have this morning?" And I'm like, "Oh, I had that." Well, then I didn't tell her about this because I planned on taking this from the location that we were shooting the video. And so then I came in here. She works from home. Her office is on the other side of the studio here. And so I'm like, "Hey, I know I didn't tell you, but I also have a podcast." She's like, "I have a meeting at 10 o'clock too. What are we going to?" So she ran upstairs. And I think that that's just being on the same page, not just within, what's the child's eating, when she goes to the bathroom, like all those types of things, but also just in life in general is just as important to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I did want to touch on though, as far as the support, the system that you have. Moms typically, when they have a child, moms have a lot of outside support, whether it's family or friends. For whatever reason, moms tend to connect with other moms, and the support window really opens up for moms. For dads, it's not so much. Dads don't really have that support system out there, other than maybe some family. And you actually admitted that you have friends that aren't dads. What kind of support do you need as a dad from other dads?
Well, I'll be honest, in the very beginning, through everything, the constant phone calls, text messages, direct messages, comments, whatever it may be, in that week, that month from having her, right? The initial week or month of her entering the world, it's a lot of, "How's Kelsey?
Right.
How's the baby? How's Kelsey's mental health? How's her physical health? How's the baby's physical health?" All those things. And it's like I know that anybody listening to this podcast, if they are a dad or a husband, then they understand that it is nothing comparable with what we go through that they go through.
Right.
Not even comparable at all. It's just something different that myself and anybody else that's a new father goes through, that you don't understand, and you feel ways that you don't really think that you're capable of feeling, or you get overwhelmed a lot easier than you used to, or whatever it may be. The statement of "there's just not as big of a support window" is about the truest statement that you could possibly make, because it is. We're supposed to be strong for them. We're supposed to be the ones that are saying, "It's going to be okay. You're fine." It's all those things. And I think that there's this stereotype, or whatever you want to call it, that a man can't feel a certain way, or that he can't talk about how he feels. And I'm saying these things being a guy that has felt that way his whole life, and not being able to necessarily, I'm not the best at communicating with anybody. My life literally goes. And I think the one thing in my life that I kind of skipped on was communicating the proper way of when I'm upset compared to when I'm mad, instead of it all kind of being the same outlet. And Kelsey has actually helped me a lot with that. And talked to me through, postpartum and, all that type of stuff. But being able to find, and I did make it a point to find somebody to just say, "Did you go through this? Was it like this when you guys had a kid? Dude, you have 4. How did you get that?" You know what I mean? And so it definitely, it was tough. And, I get down on them all the time for no reason. It's just kind of, that's life, and it's more or less something that I think it just needs to be, like what you said, a non-negotiable for you to try to figure out how you're going to find that support.
Right.
Because it's not, I mean, you could Google it. Yeah. I guess, but it's not like you're not that nurse isn't walking in with a pamphlet going, Dad, this is for you,
Right.
or much less besides the fact that I'd never fed a baby with a bottle, changed a diaper, no, and now all the things that I absolutely love,
Right.
So I think that just being able to make yourself aware of the fact that you don't have to be, it's okay to lose your shit every now and then, excuse my language, just go out, separate yourself, decompress, do whatever you need to do. And then at the same time, either know it's okay to talk to your partner or to seek externally just a little bit of support or somebody to talk to.
Yeah. I think that's perfect. I understand what you're saying, and I'm going to take it a step further. It's something that would be important for you and your wife, is a marriage coach. It's something that it doesn't take a lot of effort. My wife and I have been seeing a marriage coach for years, and she's a licensed therapist, but we don't see her so because we have problems. We see her so we don't have problems. And she
Yeah.
kind of, we talk about different things, and we only see her every couple months or so, just once, just to kind of check in and see how we're doing as a couple. But if you guys have an opportunity, you can even do it via Zoom with a therapist and just talk about things in your marriage and how things are going. And just kind of, I call her our marriage coach because that's essentially what she is. So she helps keep us in check with each other, and she's really helped us over the last couple of years. She's really helped us kind of grow even stronger with our bond together. So just something to keep in mind. But you're right, dads don't have that external support system. Like you said, the nurse coming in and handing you a pamphlet and going, Dad, this is for you. We don't have that. And we have to kind of learn trial by fire, right? We got to kind of be thrown into it and kind of learn things where, moms do get a lot of knowledge from how to be a mom and how to take care of a child. And I think dads really don't. So if there's anything that I can do for you personally, obviously you have my number. You have questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here for you, brother.
Absolutely. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Let me ask you this, brand new dad. You talked about it. I don't know how I'm going to be as a dad. I don't know how she's going to treat me when she's 10 or 12. She may tell me to take a hike. But what scares you most about being a dad?
This world.
I agree with you there.
I'm not going to run down that rabbit hole, but I don't know, the way that I grew up playing in the yard, just like anybody that's, I would say, over the age of late 20s, typically had a similar childhood. I would say generationally, but between politics and hate and everything being at an all-time high in my eyes in my lifetime. I just sending her to daycare right now was scary as hell. Right. And it's like, but she can't really be what's the word? I guess influenced so much right now at 4 months old. So I don't have to worry about somebody trying to push their agenda in whatever aspect it may be, or forcing her to think one way and she wants to think another, or telling her she's something she's not, right. Or telling her it's okay to be something you're not, there, it's just a scary time in general. I mean, for us, COVID, yeah. It's what's going to come next? Alligator virus? I don't know, freaking people, we're going to all turn into zombies and start eating each other. I couldn't tell you, right. But just not being able to always, not that I want to control her, but protect her. Yeah. I guess you could say that's going to be those things where I'm like, I remember being like, Mom, chill out. I'm 16 years old. Get off of me. Right. And it's like, well, that's the first time you're able to leave her on your own free will without asking or, doing whatever. And it's like, now to understand what that feeling is like, okay, I probably shouldn't have been so bratty and, whatever about it. But that it does, it scares the hell out of me to see, I don't know, are they even going to have public school systems, by the time she's in high school? I couldn't tell you. There's just so much uncertainty and hate in the world right now that it's dangerous for a person that can take care of themselves, and then you implement a child that can't, and it just kind of makes me nervous for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to the relationship that you and your wife have with your daughter. I believe that a lot of the values that our children have derive from who they are as kids in the home. If your daughter knows that your home is a safe space for her, and she also understands that you and your wife are there to listen to her, let her speak her mind if something's bothering her, those kind of things will help build her character and who she is as a person. And if that is built strong from the age of where she's at now to when she does hit those teenage years and she can be influenced by others, if it's strong enough in that time frame to where she does get around people that can influence her, I don't think they're going to be able to penetrate that armor. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they're going to have that much of an influence, as long as the values and the things that you're teaching your daughter and the connections and the love that you and your wife have for your daughter is so strong. It's going to be impenetrable. So it's going to be an armor that no one's going to be able to get through. However, on the flip side, you're right. The outside influences and the things that are going on in the world are dangerous. They're dangerous for us as adults, let alone our kids. I worry about my two boys. They're old enough and function just fine on their own. But still, my younger son just left to go golfing. I don't know what's going to happen when he's out golfing, but I know that he knows right from wrong, and I know that he has a good understanding of how to take care of himself. But I still have those worries. You're going to always have those worries. So that kind of stuff's always going to happen. But my whole point is that the values that you have within the home and the love and the bond and the communication that you develop with your daughter as she gets older, and this is for your wife too, will help strengthen that armor to protect her when she isn't around you 100% of the time. So just something to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. If my listeners wanted to look you up, learn a little bit more about you, check out some of your music, maybe get some of the merch, best places for them to do that?
It's Instagram. I have a pretty decent presence on there for everything that I do. So my personal account is at Nick Alligood, has a little blue check mark on there. My clothing Instagram is Whiskey No Rocks, and my blackout band that I play downtown is at Blackout Nash on Instagram. The hats, the clothes, all that good stuff. WhiskeyNoRocks.com. I will plug a little, kind of give an exclusive here for the Dad Up podcast. We are about to launch the biggest giveaway I've ever done. I'm giving away a $3,000 2-man archery hunt in Boonville, Kentucky, from Red River Deer Camp, as well as a Yeti cooler, a bunch of deer jacker, rat jacker, and some other feeds and stuff like that. And that's going to launch in like 2 weeks. So if you guys want to go check it out, go ahead and figure out something that you like, because all you got to do to enter in is just purchase something off of there. And make sure you give us a follow. And of course, always follow Dad Up on everything they got going on, podcast, Instagram, and all that good stuff.
Awesome. We'll make sure we'll put that in the show notes for sure. Nick, listen, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a busy schedule, so I'll let you get back to it, but I appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad that we've had a chance to connect. I'm glad that you and I are friends, and I look forward to staying in touch with you. And as I said earlier, if you have any questions about parenting and all that kind of stuff, you can come to me. I'll give you the best answer I can give you. And if I can't give you an answer, I'll find it for you, So I appreciate you being on though, brother. I really do.
Thank you, Bryan. I really appreciate it.
This has been another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Make sure you guys are checking out what Nick Alligood is doing. He and his band, check out his merch. And then if you're interested in what he's doing as far as the giveaway goes, stay tuned for that. All the links will be in my show notes. But I appreciate Nick for being on the show. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up.
Thanks so much for listening to the episode. Make sure you guys subscribe to my podcast and YouTube channel. And please do me a favor, leave a rating and a review. Would love to hear from you and see what you think of the show. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes each week. Until next time, thank you for listening to the Dad Up Podcast.